night, boxing fans and Fight News readers. I am pleased to be here with the Vice President of Boxing Operations for Top Rank, Carl Moretti. Carl, how you doing today?
Well, good. Good to meet you and looking forward to it.
Yeah. Actually, we met briefly down in Bogota at the WBO convention when
Ah, okay,
we
sure.
interrupted me out during that whatever that was, big cocktail party or something that they were having.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. I remember.
Well, you
Good
look,
times.
you made it through what we've had to endure with this winter so far. You're here on the East Coast, right?
I am. I'm down in South Jersey at the Jersey Shore, but we're far from beach weather right now, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on Top Rank putting together this deal. Excuse me here. Something popping up in the way. Um, with the zone. It's a long time coming, 8 months actually, and a lot of boxing fans and fans of Top Rank
hmm
sitting on their hands, wondering, all sorts of speculation was going along on the internet. We finally got something.
Yeah. Um, a lot of all you gotta do is go on the internet to get speculation and find out what you're actually doing. Um, but that's okay. We ended in July of 25
Right.
with ESPN, but um, we knew that, it's very difficult in any business to start in the middle of a fiscal year because almost all companies and all budgets run year to year. So to ask for or to try and get a deal put together for several $1 million, over the course in the middle of a calendar year really isn't realistic, regardless of what business it is. So, in our heads and in our planning, we knew that we would probably be dormant the rest of the year as far as putting on shows. Placing guys on cards wasn't difficult. It was just a different way of planning things. And then going into this new year of 26, we were able to execute on this deal with the zone.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up. That's one of the things I was going to talk about was like the time frame and the 8 months of, kind of being dormant. I remember interviewing Bob when the deal was struck 7 or 8 years ago. He came to
hmm
the F convention in Reno.
hmm
I think was it 7 or 8 year deal? I thought it was seven.
It was a 7 year deal.
Okay. So yeah, I remember that. So and that was I think May or June at that time. So you guys kind of actually did what is odd to and started in the middle. Uh,
Well, the reason for that is ESPN and essentially the parent company Disney runs their fiscal years from July 31st to August 1st.
okay.
So, unlike other companies, that's how their fiscal years run. That's why our deal ended in July and not December.
Okay.
So, most companies run, January, December 31 to January 1. Disney runs July 31 to August 1. So that's why you see the discrepancy in timing and everything else.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mhm.
So like we said, it's been 8 months. As the clock was ticking down on the ESPN deal, um, what were the thoughts going on with, the brains at Top Rank as far as how soon in advance did you start planning and what were your plans? Was there ever a thought of like continuing with ESPN or were you looking to do something different or and how early or late or when did you kind of
Yeah.
brainstorming?
No, look, first thing is ESPN were great partners. And, they're just tremendous people, a lot of respect for uh, the people there in Bristol and all that run the company and did boxing. Um, Enjoyed it the whole time. The reality of it is, with the way the NFL is and these other major sports properties like the NBA and college football, any sports quote unquote beneath that are gonna, either take a hit or be looked at a little bit more closely, regardless of how big or how small their deal is. Just like a F1 and Major League Baseball, those, F1 was dropped and Major League Baseball was reworked into a different deal. But all that extra money, which isn't a lot in the big scheme of things when it comes to the NFL, had to be used, to secure deals with the NBA and the NFL. Any network today can live without boxing per se. It's nice to have it, but they don't have to have it. They have to be involved with the NFL. And I think with that mindset, they gave us plenty of advance notice that, look, there's a chance that you're not going to get renewed because of what we're dealing with on a larger scale, which is fine. So it's not like they told us the day before, we're not going to renew. They gave us several months of planning, and when we were told that, that's what we did. We all got together and constantly discussed, okay, what do you think we can do? Where can we go? How do we shift this whole thing over the last 7 years to the next step? What are the potential players? And that took some time, but it's not like we had to do it overnight.
Hmm. So it did, I mean, it sounds like it was more up to them, or I mean, was it a mutual decision? Like you said, you were kind of
No, it wasn't a mutual decision. We would love to continue with ESPN, but you have to realize your place in line.
right,
Um, is it the NFL or is it boxing?
right,
And if you look at all the networks, it's not like any other promoters have other deals with other networks out there. I mean,
right.
that's a reflection of the sport right now. Everybody's involved with NFL, everybody's involved with college football, NBA, stuff like that. So it's just adjusting to that mindset and realizing, where you stand and trying to make the best of where you stand and adapting and going from there.
Hmm. So you wind up with the zone. The deal, as I read, covers 8 to 10 shows a year. First of all, is there a number of years involved, or is it a 1 year at a time?
Yeah. No, it's multi-year and multi-shows. I don't know if 8 to 10 or the dollar amount that was put out there is correct. I don't even know how that got out there in the first place. Again, we'll be starting up pretty soon. So I don't know what you count as your year. Is it X amount of shows between now and the end of the year? Is it X amount of shows between now and a year from your first date? That's all internal stuff that us and DAZN know about. But I don't think, I think people get too caught up in what's the deal. You know, I, I don't, myself or others at Top Rank or whatever, we don't go ask the public or people, what do you do for a living and what's your deal? How much money do you make or don't make, and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So I think people love to talk about, what the specifics of the deal. I'm just happy, that Top Rank is back on, made, the home of global boxing right now, and being able to do our own shows and do what we do best, and that's really what we're looking forward to.
right. Well, yeah. So, you're right. There was, initially, I think there was like a 1 to 1.25 million per show was posted on some social media sites, and then it was taken down, which was kind of funny. So, but then I think, if I'm remembering correctly, during the press conference yesterday, I think that number came up again. I'm not sure, but you're right. More importantly, I think from a fan standpoint, or it should be more important, is this shows per year, whatever the year is, from whenever you start, that's when your clock starts ticking. In terms of what the fans can look forward to, like their appetite,
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
in that sense, I was going to talk about obviously you guys have a big roster, both with veterans and new signees, and 8 to 10 shows a year on the zone, is probably hardly enough to keep them all busy. So there's other rumors going around that you're also Top Rank is also in discussions, early discussions, whatever, still with ESPN or maybe some other entity to, be able to keep your roster busy. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, the deal with the zone isn't exclusive. We are with ongoing negotiations with other entities when they come about. Uh, you know, I can't put a time frame on it. I don't know how long it'll take if it happens at all. I just know that, the zone is going to get 100% of our effort. They deserve it. Um, the deal, I mean, look at it like this. We just signed a new kid that'll come out soon, and we just signed a couple of other kids recently that are starting in the beginning processes, 10 fights or less. I don't think we would have done that if we didn't have a forecast for the next several years. You
Right,
know,
right.
we're not going to sign a kid knowing we only have X amount of dates when he's just starting out. It's just not the right thing to do. So, um, if that helps give you any kind of insight of how long we're going to be doing this, fine. If not, I get it. But that's part of the process. You don't sign a pro debut or a kid with a couple of fights. Um, it's a multi-year contract, which means we'll figure out what to do and where to put him.
So yeah, I actually had, I think we even reported on one of Top Rank's new signees, and then I kind of looked up some other uh, recent signings you've done. You've got lightweight Sammy Contreras, bantamweight Emmanuel Chance, uh,
Hmm.
weight Perla Bazadula, and featherweight
Hmm.
Juju Balo. Um,
Hmm.
those are some of the guys you're talking about.
Hmm. No question, and they're just beginning their careers. So why enter into any agreement that you're just starting with a new fighter if you don't have confidence of where you're going to be in the next 5 to 7 years? You know,
Right, and that you'll be able to showcase them to the public. And
correct. Well, you got to build a career.
right. So I couldn't help, pardon my sense of humor, but I couldn't help but notice that Juju Ballo is in the same weight class as Shushu Carrington. So I'm just thinking about a Juju versus Shushu matchup down the line in house.
Way down the line.
Wait, I know.
Way down the line.
I could just see
Way
the
down the line.
marquee, Juju versus Shushu. That's and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that part works.
both San Diego
Yeah,
and Brooklyn, right?
yeah. Way that. Way. Well, they'll fight in Kansas City just to call it right in the middle, where
Nobody
two fat crown bases could meet.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
So, along the way, and during the 8 months, you guys were doing your best to keep your fighters busy. You did some shows on your Fast channel.
Hmm.
I guess I don't know if you would use the term loaning out some fighters. So some fighters, appeared on like other promotions or co-promotions between Top Rank and say Matchroom. Most recently Navarrete against Nunez, and you had Michaela Mayer on your Fast channel.
Hmm.
I think Xander Zayas, I think, was also on your Fast
He
channel.
was his when he unified the title at
Yeah,
154 in Puerto Rico, and also Raymond Murataya when he defeated Andy Cruz
that's right.
were on matchism shows. So there was different levels. It's putting a 6 round kid on a show just to keep him busy really isn't. We do that. We did that forever. When you just don't have enough slots on one show, or there's a local show that makes sense for somebody to go on. Um, there's no problem with that. The bigger, world titleists and stuff like that takes a lot more involvement. But Matchroom, they won the purse bid on Muratai and Andy Cruz, and they made an offer for the unification on Navarrete and
Yeah.
Nunez, and both of our guys came out on top in
I was
tremendous fashion. So
top ranked
it's great.
track record in some of these, cross promotional shows. So that stands well, bodes well for Top Rank. So that's
Yeah, yeah, that's what you want. The whole idea is to win the fight, but you got to get to the fight first, and then once the bell rings, you really can't control what goes on after that. But you're talking about two elite fighters in their respective weight classes with Navarrete and Murataya.
mhm.
So it's gonna for them to lose, it's gonna take a hell of an effort by somebody else on the other side of the ring, regardless of who they're with.
Yeah. Now, so also during that time period, when Top Rank was in limbo. You lost a couple fighters. Michaela Meyer, I think Beterbiev as well. Oscar Valdez, who, you know, I'm not sure how much longer he has as far as a career.
Hmm. Hmm.
Those results of their contracts were coming up for expiration, or were they released, or and how much do you think the?
Uh, Without getting into specifics, and Better BF's contract was up.
Mhm.
Michaela's contract was up, and even if we had our deal in place, we don't have the opponents that she wants to fight. MVP is the perfect place for her right now because they have the girls that she wants to fight, and they've carved out a nice niche in women's boxing.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, so be it. Um, so our contract was up. It made the most sense for her career to go there to get those fights that she wanted, because if we had our deal, we wouldn't have been able to make the fights with them. So um, that they're not really shocking loss. I don't know if any. I don't know if we'd still have those fighters if we still were in the middle of our ESPN deal. Oscar's kind of, for lack of a better word, seen better days.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his next steps are. He had a great career.
Mhm.
Just made great fights, multiple world championships. On a downslide a little bit, but that happens with every fighter who ever fights. So there's nothing new there. So best of luck to him wherever, if he ends up or if he continues to fight. I don't know.
Mhm. Well, this whole thing also made me think about, you know, decades ago when you had, fighters that were wrapped up with different promoters. That would be one thing, and those deals kind of could always be made, but it was the different networks, in my opinion, that really made it difficult and was really a roadblock to try to, make fights between fighters that had both different promoters and usually the
Hmm.
network. Now, one of the things that was stressed during the press conference yesterday was, you've got, four huge promotional entities plus some other ones all under the same network. So that roadblock is removed in making fights against, between fighters that are with different promoters. And so then it's just the matter of the promoters working things out.
Well, it's not that simple. You still have to go to management, and
Mhm.
the fighter still has to want to fight. But yes, the steps there have shortened, and it's a little easier. The communication lines are much better, and if the network wants it, DAZN, they should be able to. We should be able to make fights, but you're still dealing with management and fighters. It's their careers. They have to make the ultimate decision on whether or not they want to fight or not. You can't force a guy to fight,
Correct.
So, but the big step is out of the way, where networks or literally legal contradictions don't allow you to cross the street,
Mhm.
or whatever you want to call it, are no longer there. So that's a positive.
Right. I mean, there's an old adage. I don't know how much I believed it. I think it depends. It's a case by case basis, but it's not the fighter that's afraid to fight somebody else. It's their manager or whatever. So
I've
you'll
seen that. I've seen that. Yeah. Yeah.
so um, for example, right now, talking about managers. I mean, everybody wanted to see Virgil Ortiz and Boots Ennis fight. And it appears, if you listen to Oscar, that it's, Ortiz's manager that has, put the wedge in that. But so what has come out of that now is talk of Ennis fighting the newly unified champ Xander Zayas. That, I mean, as far as with, promotions, that's Top Rank and Matchroom. Do you see that? Any roadblocks outside of the fighters, at least between promoters and such, getting that fight made if things
No,
like.
there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of back and forth with both Matchroom, DAZN, internally with our own camps. I believe whether it's the next fight or not, I don't know, but I think there's a good chance of that also as well. But since they are in the same weight class, sure, it could happen, and there's a better chance of it happening. I can't tell you right now. I couldn't put a percentage on it right now if it's happening or not. I think the next couple of days and weeks, it'll shake its way out one way or another. But it's certainly a matchup, an attractive one that I think everybody wants to see.
Yeah, I think fans of both fighters, all three fighters actually,
Hmm.
their guys back in action, and they're just.
Yeah, yeah, and there's no. make the fights. Whoever wins, wins. Whoever loses, loses. And, you can mix and match constantly. And I think that brings us back to, just making the best fights you can. There's no, you win, you win, you lose, you lose. You're not going to disgrace yourself. There's no downside anymore to losing. You just, you're going to get another shot. So that's all positive stuff.
Hmm. So yeah, I mean, right there, you've got, a couple of belts plus, Boots has that interim WBA belt, but it's in-house in terms of the network. And then, Top Rank works or has, up till now, pretty well with Matchroom. In that division, you've got, well, and I think, yeah, Matchroom also has, my apologies, the kid that just won the IBF title from Murtazaliev.
Josh
So
Kelly.
that's right, Kelly. But then you've got Sebastian Fundora with the WBC belt over at PBC and over on a different platform. So I would imagine, all things considered, that would be, that would be a little bit more of a roadblock to make because of the network issues.
No, no, not no. You see DAZN pay-per-views distributed by Amazon, so that's not a roadblock. I'm actually I have a call with Louis DeCubas, a good friend of mine, later today on that fight itself. Just in general where everything plays out as well as some other matches. So what was constant and relevant as far as negotiations and how to make fights 4 years ago, I don't think is the block anymore. There's everybody picks up the phone and talks and says, "Does this make sense? How do we do this fight?" and stuff like that. So that quote unquote barrier doesn't exist anymore.
Okay, well, that's good to hear it from someone in your position who would have more of a know than, the keyboard warriors on the internet that are speculating.
You mean the guy with 127 followers on Twitter who's
I don't know who you're
those
talking.
guys? I don't either, but there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
One other interesting aspect of this deal is the top rank library.
Hmm.
Currently, I guess that's on, the Top Rank Fast channel, which is, I guess, like spread out over Prime and Roku. And
Hmm.
um, is there a, is that deal going to be any different than it has been, like with the Fast channel or in the past, like with Super Bounce and things like that? Is it going to be? I think what a lot of fans are talking about is like, is it going to be the same fights that we always see, or will there be like a deeper access to the library or an on-demand option in the library to see like, maybe old top rank ESPN shows or things like that other than Leonard and Hagler and Hearns and De La Hoya and Pacquiao?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's still being developed. The access to anything they want in the library is theirs. We're going to share it with them. I think maybe what you see a little bit different is footage that hasn't been shown before, as far as behind the scenes and what was it like traveling on at the press conference for Leonard and Duran and Hagler, and stories with when you see a younger Bob Arum, you know talking to the Petronellis or stuff might come up, stuff that really hasn't been seen, that's still available, but that those details, as far as how they're produced and what they look like. I mean, maybe on a night of welterweights, you show a couple of welterweight classics and what made this fight and that type of thing, and you do comparisons. That's all in the works and to be discussed, but it's all good. I mean, it's all more interesting stuff for the fight fans to watch. So, yes, we've seen a lot of the fights on various platforms before, but I mean, I don't care what you're watching, but if Hearns Hagler comes on, you're switching your channel to Hearns Hagler to
Yeah.
watch it again. So
Um, Now, does that deal with the zone having access to the library affect their current availability on the Fast channel, or will they be then removed, or will they be in both places?
no, I think you'll always see a Top Rank Fast channel.
Okay,
It's just another platform and method of doing things.
yeah. And so, you were mentioning about, that really that barrier, even with the networks, isn't necessarily a thing anymore. what are your thoughts or the thoughts of, is there like a unified thought at Top Rank or whatever about, um, what's going on with Zuffa and trying to eliminate the belts, even though Dana said, no, I never said that. And even though it's recorded and it's all over the place, um, and them not wanting to, do the traditional, four major sanctioning bodies and just have the Zuffa belt and all that. I mean, do you think that's a sustainable thing? Do you spend any time thinking about it at all? Your
You know,
thoughts
I
about
don't, I, I don't spend a lot of time personally thinking about it. I mean, I watch the fights just because I'm a fight fan to watch fights.
right?
It's presented in a very different way. Um, what remains, how it performs, only time will tell.
Hmm.
I don't know, I don't know. I know this when a young fighter or any fighter goes to the gym and trains and puts themselves what they have to do physically and mentally, their goal is to become a world champion. I don't know how you change that. I don't know. I don't think I've seen or I will see. My goal is to become a Zuffa world champion. I don't know how that translates with history and everything like that, but no, I mean, I'm not rooting against them. I'm not rooting for them. My day doesn't can't worry about that. I got to worry about my own. Got to worry about our own stuff, and where we go and how we do our stuff. And yes, they're out there and they're have a lot of money and um, you know, they're gonna do what they're gonna do and whatever, you know.
Uh, do you think the model or the mindset of not even though they're apparently letting Jai Opataya go after his goal of unifying, which means the four traditional belts. I mean, do you think that model of the idea that all these younger or they've got fighters that have some fights under their belt and kind of maybe middle of their careers, never fighting for a traditional world championship. Do you think that's sustainable, or that the fighters will like stay on for the long ride, like if it means money?
Well, um, is well, can you answer? Is Jai Opetaia still the IBF champion, or was he stripped? Is that
He's not stripped. They're still,
okay?
I think, and I don't want to speak for them, but I was in communication with them, and we were the first to post two of the situations around that weekend. They saw the post-fight press conference, and I think they even said it in their opinion, and I hope I'm not misquoting them, that they feel he may not have been uh, dealing with truths, at least from people, whether it was people in his camp or people at Zuffa or whatever. And my feeling is, and I'll just go on record saying that's my feeling, how I interpreted it. I don't want to hold that against him, but I think they are still trying to think this out so they don't jump to a snap conclusion. Of course,
Well, it's been 2 weeks since he fought, so
that's true. I'm not. Maybe I need to place another call.
I don't know I don't know what's going to change between
I mean,
now
it
and
could
then.
be
But
known as good
I,
news. It's not stripped, but
you know,
he isn't
you know,
stripped. No, they didn't sanction
se
it as a.
separate of Opatai, um, there's a lot of fighters on their roster.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of fighters that I haven't heard of. And there's a lot of fighters, that I did hear of that probably, without demeaning them, weren't going to get to the next level and
Hmm.
compete and get paid and maybe even fight for a world championship. If they're making money and they're doing what they love, boxing, and Zuf is paying for it, I think it's a great thing, because fighters are now getting uh, money in their pockets. And you'd much rather have fighters fighting and getting paid than out on the streets or not doing other stuff. So I think it's great that these guys can, regardless of all the noise around this, can fight and earn a living. There's nothing better than that.
That's
Where it goes from there, I I have no idea, and I don't think sometimes they don't know where it's going to go from there. Right now they're in a bubble out in Vegas and doing fairly common shows. I'm sure at some point they're gonna uh, go to an arena and sell tickets. But with the guys that are fighting on those cards, you're not really looking at anything that would have driven a lot of money. So it's a smart business decision to stay in a controlled environment and not have to pay the expenses of an outside arena and what it goes and the costs that go into putting on a show, regardless of who's fighting. I mean, that, I live this every day. Those costs are pretty high, just to go to any place and rent an arena and hotel and insurance and travel. And, there's a whole list of expenses. So it makes sense to do that for fights that aren't going to do a gate anyway. So I commend them for that. I don't, criticize it. And I love the fact that fighters that who haven't gotten an opportunity because of the lack of shows or, rosters are just too deep. You can't have every fighter in the world and maintain any kind of business. You just have to be selective with who you take. And now these kids get to fight, do what they like, and move on and get paid. So that part of it is good. Where it goes and how they get to world titles and are they gonna fight for the traditional four belts? They did it once and they still can't figure it out of whether he's the IBF champion now. So I think you gotta get the first one figured out and then go from there. But like I said, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about it, and it's not
Yeah,
my problem.
that's good. So just in closing, is there a timeline for Top Rank's first
Hmm.
show with the zone?
Yeah, yeah. I think when this dust clears on this other situation, we'll know if we're going in May or June, and that those decisions and process will be figured out pretty soon on when that happens.
And is there a thought on headliners or who might be or what?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if this happens, he's going to headline. If that happens, this guy's going to headline. So we have plans in place. We're just waiting for some other details to fall in, and it'll happen shortly because we got to give guys enough time to train, and they're always in training. But you need enough lead time to announce an event, promote an event, and everything like that. So we know what we're doing. We're just waiting to pull the trigger and get going.
All right. Well, yeah, we've all always known that Top Rank knows what they're doing, and we're glad that you're doing it the way you're doing it, and with
Yeah.
who's doing it, it's really good news. It's been a bit of a wait, so I think I speak for a lot of fight fans. We're super happy about that. So with that, I want to thank you for taking some time out, and be sure to have Evan and your other PR folks let us know, what's happening and when it's happening and who's doing it.
Well, we'll get the word out like we always do and appreciate your support. And we'll see you sooner rather than later, I think.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep.
Take it.
Okay. Stay well.
You too. Bye bye.